They're so cool. Why are there not more gnomes in fantasy? Hey guys, welcome to a bookish homeschool video. So I had lots of requests to share the book lists that my kids are going to be getting from me for their 5th grade year and their 8th grade year. Wow, for some reason that just blew my mind. So this week we're going to be going over the 5th grade books, and then in 2 weeks when my next video comes out, I'll be talking about the 8th grade books. If you guys like bookish things, I'm in the process right now, it may be up at this point, if not it will be up shortly, of filming a thrifting books video for my membership. So my membership has like bonus videos and bonus downloads and unit studies and all sorts of things. So that's always linked below if you want even more bookish and other homeschool content. But today we're going to get into the book list for my 5th grader. Now he likes funny, silly, light books for the most part. He's a little bit more into fantasy, I would say maybe mystery first and then like fantasy. And I tried to keep some of that in mind while picking out books, and then partially just picking out books that I really want him to read. And I'm making 2 lists. One is a priority list that we'll be going through first, and then the next one is like free reads, kind of like a little bit more for fun. And that all being said, I am totally okay for both of my kids if they listen to these on audio. Now, this is a bit hard for me because I am a physical book reader. I love just sitting down, holding a physical book, and I can tend to glorify that, think that's better reading than listening to an audiobook, but there's actually a ton of benefits to listening to audiobooks. As someone that is an adult and still can't pronounce words, audiobooks are great for that. So I'm okay if they listen to these books. What I'm actually doing is, I did share about this in my membership last month or the month before when I was talking about making the book list and how I'm creating the book list, where I'm getting my books from. I have a whole video about that. But what I'm actually going to be doing is going through this entire list and putting all the books that Libby, our library app, has in a, like, I'm tagging them as grade 5 books for my son. So he can go through and listen to all of those. And the ones that aren't available on Libby, we might purchase from Audible. We'll double check to make sure Hoopla doesn't have it for free as well. And then I actually do have a Scribd account, which is kind of like Netflix for audiobooks and ebooks. If you guys want a free trial for that, I think I have a link that is a 30-day free trial. Maybe it's 60 days. I'll leave that below as well. So we're going to be using a variety of different audiobook sources. If there's no audiobook, I might just actually have to read a physical book. Here is the list of priority books. The first one, starting off with a bit of a tearjerker, it is Bridge to Terabithia. I got my daughter to read this right around grade 5 too. I remember very clearly reading this in grade 5, and it kind of broke my heart, and I want my kids to experience it at the same time that I experienced it. This is about new neighbors and friends that form a like unlikely friendship, and I don't want to say anything else, but it might make you cry, it might make your kids cry. I think sometimes that's a good thing. So this is like top book on the priority list this year. There's actually quite a few books on both of the lists, the priority list and the free reads list, that I don't have physical copies of, and a few that I know I own physical copies of but I couldn't find at the moment. So I'll put up images for those. The next one is Swiss Family Robinson, and I think we'll probably do an abridged version of this. I don't think I've actually read Swiss Family Robinson myself. I'm pretty sure not. So we'll probably do an abridged version of that. And then also in the classics vein, I have a classic starts version of Treasure Island, and I think he'll enjoy this as well. So I'm gonna put this one on his list. I'm not sure if these classic starts have an audiobook version. If not, this is abridged, so it's, whoa, almost dropped the book. It's shorter, it has pretty big words, it has illustrations, so it should be a fairly easy read. Next up is another book that I haven't even read, but I want to soon. I've heard really good things about Song for a Whale. Maybe we'll do this as an audiobook together, but probably not because we're not doing very well with our audiobooks these days. So I know this has to do with, I think, a girl who is deaf, and somehow she communicates with whales. I don't really know. Don't quote me on any of that. It has to do with a deaf character and a whale. That's what I know. But but I've heard amazing things about it. Then I also want him to read Forget Me Not. This is a free verse novel about a girl with Tourette's, and my daughter and I read it, I think earlier this year. We both gave it 5 stars, and she's not as big into free verse novels as I am, but this one is really good. It's hard-hitting, and I think it's just a really good thing for kids to read about characters that are different than themselves, and especially, yeah, I don't know, this one just really hit me, and I think he'll enjoy it. I'm also putting on Premeditated Myrtle. This was one of his books for the summer, but we made a little bit of a swap. He's actually reading the book that his sister wrote, his 12-year-old sister, instead. So I'm going to move this one over to his grade 5 reads instead of his summer reads. This is a Victorian mystery series, middle grade mystery with our main character. Her name is Myrtle Hardcastle. The series is hilarious. I've read all 4 of the books that are currently out. I listened to them on audio. The audiobook is great, so I think he'll really enjoy this. He has enjoyed the Aggie Morton series, so I'm pretty sure he'll enjoy this as well. Another book, I remember reading this one, I think this would have been grade 4, from the Mixed Up Files of Mrs. Basil E. Frankweiler. This one, our main character, she decides to run away, and she runs to, is it like the, oh, I don't remember, the Metropolitan Museum of Natural History, I think. I don't think I've ever reread this book, but I clearly remember certain scenes from the book where she convinces her brother to run away as well, and they're like hiding in the bathroom stalls at closing time, and for some reason, yeah, I don't know. I think he'll like it. It stuck with me. It's kind of silly, but I think it's one of those books that stands the test of time, I think. We'll see what he thinks about it. Then a few of these books on this list we did as audiobooks when he was younger, but I don't think he remembers them because I was more gravitating towards my daughter at the time, but he just happened to be there listening to them. So we're going to be doing, I want him to do The Railway Children. I remember listening to this together years ago, and I actually don't remember a ton about it except these kids live by the railway, and yeah, I don't remember much, but I think it will be a good one for him. Then we've got Green Glass House. This has to do with a smuggler's inn in the middle of winter, and I listened to the first book years ago and it has stuck with me. It is a series. I didn't enjoy the ending of the book, but I think he'll actually enjoy it, so that's why I put it on the list. And another one we did on audio a while ago, a few years again, is The City of Ember. This is a dystopian book about this city that, oh, I don't remember what you're told offhand, like at the beginning. The city is somewhere, not sure I'm allowed to say, but things have been deteriorating. They've been where they are for quite some time, and the light bulbs are all slowly going out, and things go down. I think he'll enjoy it. It is a series. I've only ever read the first book, like most of these. Then the next one is another one I've never read, but I've heard good things about and I've been meaning to read. It's The Candy Makers. I believe this is also a series. I do know that this is on Libby, and I don't really know anything about it. The cover looks really fun, so I think he'll be interested in it based on the cover, and I think he'll enjoy it from the things that I've heard from other people. Next up, we have a book. I think this is the start of a series that I heard about over on my Patreon recently. This is called Edge of Extinction, and I think it's if Jurassic Park was real or something, and it's a middle grade version, and I think he'll enjoy it. I mean, it's gonna have to do with dinosaurs, so that sounds fun. So I think he'll like that. And so those are all of my priority books. I think that was 11. Well, if he can listen to them on audio, he'll easily be able to get through all of those. And then I have a bunch of free reads. Now, this first one, I don't think he's actually going to pick up. It's Old Yeller. I still haven't read it myself, but I grew up watching the movie. It was one of the few movies we owned, so we rewatched it. I actually have the book here, and he picked it up the other day, and he's like, I don't like books and movies where the animal dies, where the dog dies. My dad is really into animal movies, and Ephraim was like, Papa always likes those movies, but I don't like them. So I don't know if he'll pick it up, but I'm gonna put it on his list anyway. Another one we read a few years ago, and once again we just read the first book together. I tend to do that with my kids. We'll often read or listen to the audiobook of the first book in the series, and then I hope that will spark them to continue the series on their own. But that is Book Scavenger, and this is a lot of fun. It's where there's this game where you leave clues and riddles and hide a book, and every clue and riddle leads you to another one. And I wish this was, it kind of is a thing in real life, like you can do it, but not like to this extent. It was a lot of fun to read, and it's got a bit of a game and a mystery and riddles to it, so it was fun. This next book I may have actually unhauled because I don't like this kind of thing. I'm not a big talking animals kind of person, but Redwall. Now this is another one we read years ago together, but he would have been way too little. And I know it has to do with like mice and rats and a war and like an abbey, and that's really all I remember. I'm curious to know if he likes it. It is a series, so if he does like it, there's more books for him to read. So that's going on his free reads list. One that we have read, we've read a few books in this series together, and like that's Narnia, starting with The Magician's Nephew or The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. Doesn't really matter. I have opinions, but it's okay. Yeah, we've read the first few together. I would like him to kind of go through the entire series on his own because it's great, except I haven't finished the series myself, so I feel bad saying that, but I should do that. I should finish the series and then also get him to do the same. Next on the list, I have the book Echo. Now this one is amazing on audiobook, and I don't know if we own the audio. I know the library has it. It is multiple timelines. You follow a magical harmonica, and really it starts out kind of like a bit of a fairy tale. It sounds like a fairy tale, and you follow this harmonica that's kind of magical, but other than that, it's historical fiction. So you follow this harmonica to different points in history, following different characters, and the audiobook is amazing because there is music to it. Highly, highly recommend it. It would be one that I would love to reread one of these days, or re-listen to one of these days. Then a kind of less popular book is The Prairie Thief, and I am like a person who says that when I'm old, I'm going to have a yard full of gnomes. Like I want to be that old lady that's like kind of quirky and just has gnomes everywhere. Kind of creepy, but like mostly quirky. And so it's The Prairie Thief, and on the cover there is a girl and a gnome. Is there two girls? I don't remember, but it's cute. It's a like kind of like Little House on the Prairie with like a fantasy element. And I mean, gnomes, they're so cool. Why are there not more gnomes in fantasy? That's something I want to see brought back. Then is a book that I read recently. This is Winnie's Great War. This has to do with the story of Winnie the Pooh and how she has become what she is, honestly. Right from her start in the forest to how she became Winnie the Pooh. And this is written by, what's his name? Henry Colburn, the man who bought Winnie. This is written by his great-granddaughter, I think. So that's a cool element to it. Then we've got a trilogy. This is Dead City, and I read the first book back in March and had a lot of fun with it. So it's kind of weird because it has to do with zombies, not normally my kind of thing, but our main character is really smart. She hangs out in the city morgue. She's maybe a little quirky, and she finds out that there's actually zombies in a certain part, I think it's Manhattan. Somehow zombies are able to exist in Manhattan, and she becomes like a zombie fighter. Definitely seems up my son's alley. It's got some humor. I think he'll enjoy it. Then we have a free verse novel I read a couple months ago. This is a fairly new release. It's called Otter, and it's all about otters, and it takes a lot of the true stories of otters from the Monterey rehab center, where they work a lot with, could be sea otters, I think. Yeah, sea otters, which they're just adorable. The illustrations throughout the book are adorable, and it's free verse, it's a quick read, and like it made me tear up, so I want him to read that one. Okay, then we've got, what, 2, 3, 4, a number of books that I've never read and I don't know a whole lot about. So I'm gonna go through these ones fairly quickly. So we have The View from Saturday, who is the same author as, I don't have it here, I think it was from the Mixed Up Files, and I've heard good things about that one. Don't really know anything about it. Then we've got Homer Price, another one that pops up in a lot of lists, but I don't know anything about. So if my son tells me some of these books that I haven't read are really good, then I'm gonna read them. We've got The 21 Balloons, another one that's on a bunch of lists I don't know anything about. The Children of Noisy Village. Now this is one that I think is by the author of Pippi Longstocking, which was one of his favorite books for years. Like, he's probably listened to the audiobook over 100 times. Like, he has loved it. I'm pretty sure that's by the same author. So I think he should read more from her. Then we've got Rules. I think this one's by Gordon Corman. And when I read the description, I thought no wait, this is a different one. Restart is my next one. This one's by Gordon Corman. Rules is a different book that my daughter read recently. I think that one has to do with cystic fibrosis. Good thing I will be editing this and I can like yell at myself on the screen here. All of a Kind Family. We read this one a number of years ago. It's about a family that is a Jewish family in New York, and I don't know, I think it's set maybe in like the 50s. It's just a really sweet little story. And then I put down Kidnapped. I don't know if I have a abridged version of this or not, but I'm totally okay if he does an abridged version of it. Then I have The 100 Dresses. This is another one that I read years ago and we did together years ago. It's very short. It has to do with being a good friend, honestly, is what it has to do with. This is a terrible cover, but it's a really good book. Then I have The Grave Thief. This one is a middle grade fantasy book that I read a few months ago and thoroughly enjoyed. The book is just as good as the cover is beautiful, and I even bought the audiobook because I knew he wouldn't read the physical book, but he would listen to the audiobook, so I have that prepped for him. Okay, 2 more books I think, unless I missed one. The Saturdays. I can't remember who that one's by, but this is also on a million lists as well. I've never read it either. Maybe you guys could tell me if some of these ones that I have never read I should read. I can't read all the books as much as I would like to. And then the last one is one that we read years ago, 100 Cupboards. I don't know, I didn't love this one. My daughter, surprisingly to me, didn't even love it, and I felt like it was her kind of thing at the time. This is like a fantasy book where there's a bedroom with 100 cupboards, and each one kind of goes into like a bit of a different world. And I'm not sure if my son will like it or not. I think he should try it and we'll see. So there you go. I don't know how many books that was, but those are his priority reads and free reads for the year. And then I think we'll update a couple times throughout the year, sharing some of his favorites. We'll see if any of the books that I've put on his list make his favorites, or if he's got other books that are favorites. If you guys want more book lists similar to this, we do have a bunch of bookish videos from the past sharing different books I want them to read, different books that both my kids have enjoyed. So they're here on the channel. Let me know if there's any books that you think are great for grade 5 that you think my son would enjoy, because I might just add them to his list. Thanks for watching, guys.